So you've all read the title of this video, and before you start disliking it like the 4th comment in a Reddit chain, listen to what I have to say. Before I start, I just want to say I'm a massive TF2 fan, just like most of you watching this video, not some Overwatch nerd who plays a tad of League of Legends and Genshin Impact when he isn't using his piss bucket in his gamer den while physically unable to touch grass. Average Overwatch player aside, let's talk about why TF2 doesn't need a heavy update. Aside from the amazing gameplay, lore, and character design put into the game, a massive contributing factor to TF2's longevity is the TV talent show's sad backstory. Poor game beloved by hundreds of thousands across the globe gets neglect from Evil Game Corporation. And to a certain extent this is true, and a reason why I think that Valve still needs to release more permanent anti-bot solutions, as well as other things. However, it's the right move for the game's lifespan and longevity to not receive a major update anytime soon, if at all. The next part is going to talk a bit about science, so if you're a dumbass, skip to 2 minutes 22 seconds. For the majority of this section, I'm just going to be paraphrasing what CGP Graze said in this video, which I highly recommend you watch over here. But the main point is that trends and topics on the internet act similarly to viruses and bacteria in the real world. If there is not enough interest or the majority of people have heard about and are bored of the topic will die out. Much like if a disease is not contagious enough and most people have already had it, it has a higher chance of dying out. A post without a user sharing it dies out, in a very similar way to viruses without cells to hijack. Different topics can have different amounts of success depending on what emotion the post invokes, similarly to how viruses can have different success depending on how they transfer. Out of all emotions that people can feel, anger is by far the most contagious, and is exactly what TF2's story inflicts. This anger stays in people's minds for longer, and they vent it to other people, who also become inflamed. More people thinking about the game means more people playing, so when TF2 stopped receiving updates, its player numbers skyrocketed. TF2 isn't just a random game that you decided to download over the weekend because you were bored. It takes time to become good. Unfortunately, there aren't a ton of great tools you can use out there to make this happen really quickly. Say you're a new player, and you want to start your journey to becoming a TF2 player. You open it up, join a casual match, and try to ask some people what you're meant to do, but communication isn't available for this account. No problem, I just use this training mode that's in the search queue. The problem with training though, is that it sucks ass. This is an original topic by any means, and if you want to learn more about TF2 training, there are tons of videos on YouTube about it. Anyway, the new player completes training, but then what's this? A coaching mode? Just what I needed. I'll just load in here and... This broken as game, I'm gonna give Valve a piece of my mind. This is a perfectly realistic example of how hostile the game is to new players. It took me 6 months to land my first market garden. But one of the most confusing things that I and every other new player encountered on our journey to TF2 was how much stuff was in the game. You had unlockable weapons, what the fuck is man up, and why do I need a phone number for competitive? Why is nobody joining my server I just created? What is a Halloween mask? Wait, I thought this game was free. Ah! Adding more weapons and maps and game modes and all the wonderful stuff that would be included in a heavy update would be overwhelming to new players. If we receive any major update at all, it should be centered towards new players and accommodating their needs. Despite what a large portion of the fanbase claims, it would be a bad monetary decision to give TF2 an update on Valve's behalf. This connects back to the reasons why TF2 is popular and will become unpopular if we get an update. Less players playing the game will obviously mean less players buying things from the Manco store and the Steam community market, which means TF2 will fall into an economic depression similarly to the Great Depression of 2019, due to lack of population to support the economy. This would not be very good for Valve, so they are likely giving us radio silence and no significant updates because they are attempting to preserve this timeless classic of a game. All of these points are valid, but what if there was something specific to TF2 that made it grow that I haven't thought of? Are there factors I haven't considered in the making of this video? There certainly might be, I'm not perfect, and this script was rushed because of trying to get this video out before Christmas. Anyway, even if there was some factors specific to TF2 that we aren't seeing, We can observe a similar story going on in a much smaller scale with a game that a lot of you have probably never heard of. Geometry Dash. I know it sounds like a coolmathgames.com Flash game, rest in peace Flash, but it's so much more than that. Geometry Dash's last major update was released on the 16th of January 2017, and the last hotfix was released on the 12th of November 2017. The developer of the game, RobTop, has not maintained radio silence and has informed the community that he is in fact working on the next game update. As for the player base, a very similar story to TF2 has occurred if we look at the play numbers side by side. Although GD is a much smaller game, it has similar trends. When the game stopped receiving updates, the player numbers significantly increased years after the game's initial release. Similarly to TF2, GD is mainly run by the community due to the function where you can make your own levels. People have created some truly incredible things using this barebones pre-VScript hammer editor style of version of coding, but this video isn't about Geometry Dash though, it's about TF2, so on to the next chapter. This chapter is going to be pretty short, but it mainly boils down to this. Valve's employees would be much better off continuing to battle the bot crisis, which has much more of an impact on the game than a lack of heavy updates has. Bots are really annoying, and although they have been a main source of the popularity that has come from TF2, it's useless to the game if it's unplayable as a side effect. So we've discussed why TF2 is so popular in the first place, how hostile TF2 is to new players, and how the heavy update would make that worse. We've discussed how Valve would lose money, and an example of the same story happening in a different game, and how Valve's time would be better spent with quality of life improvements and bot fixes. With all this being said, if you disagree with me, let me know. This isn't an argument between who is wrong and right, it's a discussion on the state of the game. Or if you have more reasons why TF2 doesn't need a heavy update, put them in the comments. Discussion is key to understanding these things and Valve's reasoning behind not giving us a heavy update. This video is by far the hardest video I've ever had to make, so expect me to go back to short gameplay clip style videos until I get the motivation to do another long video essay like this. So tap the bell to make sure you don't miss it. Anyway, that's all from me. I'm going to enjoy my Christmas like you guys should. Bye!